Hello, everyone, and welcome to Thursday Live Lesson. My name is Aldrine, joined by these fine two gentlemen. We got Mr. Aaron, the voice Nakamura. Say what's up, Aaron?
What's up?
And Mr. Kahai, the legend Fergan. Say what's up, Kahai?
What's up?
I had asked Magic Mike to come on today, but he's like, you know what? I'd rather make money. And I'm like, you know what? You should. Especially in this climate. You should definitely go and work instead. So congratulations on Mike and going back to work. The music store that's kind of just down the street from me where Mike works is finally open, but they have, I guess, like limited hours and stuff. But at least he's working. At least, you know, he's working. So good for Mike Odo. So it's just the three of us, guys, you know, just second week in a row. It's just us, no guests, no nothing. Kahai, you ready for this, bud?
I was gonna say it's like when Urkel turned into Urkel, like Stefan.
Urkel.
Yeah.
We're still going with that analogy. I love it.
Oh, Mike is all smooth and cool now. Oh, I can't hang out with us lame-os anymore.
It's Michael, okay? It's Mike and Michael.
Yeah.
It's
so Michael's not here.
It's Mikkel.
Mikkel. Odo.
Mikkel Odo. Odo. So yeah, I mean, maybe next week we'll have a guest and stuff, but you know, we have to kind of plan it out with Mikkel now because he's like a busy dude now. You know what I mean? Before it's like, hey, you want to jump on? Like 15 minutes before, he's like, oh yeah, I got nothing else to do, not doing anything else. But yeah, good for Mike and stuff. You know, and So, Thursday Live Lesson is a place where we get all the questions and we answer them. I try to answer them as best as I can. My two colleagues over here will answer, as best as they can. We'll come up with a super answer, and that's it. You know, we'll try to help out as best as we can. We are live. We do have a live chat right now for all of you UU Plus subscribers. So, chat it up, ask us some questions and stuff. But before I get started, there's something that I kind of wanted to bring up with you guys and stuff. It is, it does concern music and musicians in general in this kind of climate that we have right now. I just found out today via Brittany Paiva that Mayor Caldwell is labeling musicians that play indoors that sing a super spreader of this disease that's been kind of going on. Really? He's actually he's putting a ban on on live music indoors that sing and stuff. And of course, like a lot of people were excited to kind of go back and play music and stuff. And now they're saying like, oh, you know, these people that sing, you can't, not you. I guess like instrumentalists and stuff. Like I mean, Jake Shimabukuro could do it, I guess.
So not just a spreader, but a super spreader.
That's what they're saying. But I guess because if you want to project and stuff, like you have to. You have to kind of not yell, but you have to project, and that causes a lot more droplets and stuff. But that is kind of sad for the people who were excited to kind of go back because the restaurants and stuff started kind of open up again, and of course musicians are like, oh, if you're open, then can we play music and whatnot? So, and it's already kind of hard to be a musician on Oahu. Like for us, like we're just like, oh yeah, we play this gig and whatnot. But for some people, that's their livelihood. So and to just kind of like, you can't. Oh wait, never mind, you can't. So my love goes out to all the musicians over on Oahu because that sucks. That sucks. I mean, it was weird to hear it from Brittany because I don't think she sings. So I'm just like, I think you're safe, right? Like, but I don't know. I don't know what the details are and stuff, but my love does go out to them. So I just wanted to start this off with saying my love. And I have a lot of like musician friends on Oahu and stuff, and that sucks. It sucks. But here on Kauai, it hasn't reached yet and stuff. So I think a bunch of people are playing here on the island. I think I saw a clip of Fingers. We've had Fingers on one of our lessons. Him and Shallow Paw, I saw a clip of them playing at, I believe it was Bullshed, and they're kind of continuing on and they're doing their thing. So more power to all the bands and singers and stuff on Kauai who finally have work again, because for some people that's how they feed their families. So sad. What do you think, Kahai?
It was sad.
Yeah,
it's interesting that they make the distinction too that it's indoor singers, right, and not outdoor singers. Because like, or even like, and I was thinking you said about Britney, like, but like I'm guessing Britney, when she does her stage shows or whatever, she has a mic just to talk to the audience, right? Like, are people gonna, or like if somebody sees that, are they gonna think like, oh, she's a musician and she's a singer, she can't be doing that, right? So like it's all of these kinds of things. It's like hard to tell like what effect it will have and like how the distinctions, you know, people will react to that, you know, or if people will, because I don't know if like, I wonder if people will take it seriously, you know, be like, you're a super spreader.
I mean, people are already like starting petitions and stuff to like to reverse the decision to do that, but it's kind of insane. And I know we always kind of like steer around like, you know, the topic of COVID and stuff, because we're not doctors or scientists or whatever, we don't know, so we never talk about it. But this does involve like music and musicians and stuff, and I feel like that's something that we can kind of like talk a little bit about. But now with that said, let's put that away. Now I just want to just kind of say a little bit about it. I don't want to make a full episode because because this is an escape. This show is an escape from all that craziness. So now that we've said that, I stand behind my musician brothers and sisters, and you know, so hopefully you guys get your jobs back. But yeah, Kahai, so we do have questions, so why don't you hit me with the first question that I can answer for you, bud?
Last week we had we did a review for Wesley, right? A student review. So he just like sent us a message and he said, thanks for the feedback, guys. I was intentionally trying to keep the beat as rigid as possible when I recorded the cello suite prelude. I appreciate your feedback about dynamics and campanella style. I've been practicing a campanella style D major scale, and I've switched over to learning Jesu Joy of Man's. Do you have any... Yesu, sorry. Do you have any suggestions on exercises I can do to improve my dynamic range? It's not merging. It's not so merging I focused on. So sounds like he asking for help with dynamics.
Okay, with dynamics, you know, and thanks for kind of, I don't know if you took our advice and kind of focused on something else, or you were already kind of doing that, but yeah, it's good. It's good to kind of, you know, mix it up a little bit. Yesu is an awesome song. I've been kind of wanting to do that for the solos, the UE plus solos here on Ukulele Underground, but it's kind of tough because there's like a second part in it that I'm not quite sure about, but I can commentate on the beginning part. I do play that song and I play it in F, and the advice that I can give is is to think about kind of waves, so that it's like it's got this kind of wave feel. So so if you're gonna do that, you know, that line, think of it, da 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 da. There is like this kind of wave that kind of happens with, as far as dynamics. So, and it goes ba 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 da da ba da da ba da da ba da da ba. So it's almost like that 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3. And if as long as you're kind of you've got this kind of wave. Not necessarily a gallop, but it's more like a wave on those beat ones. I think that's what you should focus on. Ba ba da ba 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 da da ba da da ba da da. If you can distinctly separate those, you know, those beat ones from the rest, I think you're gonna be in good shape, man. Like and really approach it with as much flesh as possible. That's another advice, because it's like very what's the word here? It's like a gentle kind of song. I don't even know how to describe it. It's, you know, it's delicate. That's the best way I can put it, I guess. It's a very delicate piece. So even though you're adding an accent to those beat ones, it's not like an accent of like you know, it's not like
not in your face.
Yes. Yeah. It's just that it's louder, you know, than the others, but it's still handled very delicately, you know, than the rest. So my advice, especially with that line, it's a lot of that pointer finger that's kind of like going up, and you're kind of doing this. If you're using 2 fingers, that's all good. But for the most part, it's a lot of this kind of up strokes, and you're keeping this pointer finger. I don't know if you're using the same arrangement. Pointer finger on the 5th fret and is kind of doing that doing that line. And that line is the most like kind of important line in that in that song. Make sure that you're that you're hitting it with as much flesh as possible, so that it's warmer, so that it's not as kind of as punchy. You don't want it punchy. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think a lot of dynamics, like learning dynamics, is experimenting, like trying to play, not even play a song, just like try and play something as soft as you can, and then try and play it as loud as you can, and like working to build it up and then bring it back down, and seeing how you're doing that, like physically, how you're putting more emphasis into your strum, or you're hitting it with your nail, or how you're affecting tone too, and how it's coming through. So like there's that Uke Minutes with Jake Wright with the pluck strum, and he talks about like hitting you're trying to emphasize just one string. You hit all the strings at the same time, but one string should come out more clear. And like that's the kind of things that I think would help you, is if you just like try and play around with, like, it's kind of getting to know what is the dynamic range of your instrument first off, to know like, okay, so normally I play here, but I have like this much more headroom to go either louder, or I have like this much more headroom to go softer. And then how do I apply that like emotionally to my music? Like what am I trying to say with by going either softer or louder? And I think that'll help you. Yeah.
So to give people kind of a visualization of what Kahai was talking about, like say for example, this is your dynamic range. Like this is the lowest that you can possibly go, and this is the highest that you can possibly go. Okay,
in volume.
In volume. In dynamics. And in volume. So right, this is this is as low as you can go, and as high as you can go in volume. Now, if you're hitting the strings like how you normally would with a picking, it's usually a little bit louder than usual. So that would mean you're kind of starting off from like right here. So your threshold is only this much. But what you want to do is, if this is your dynamic range, you want to start off right here, right in the middle. Okay, so that you can go lower, you can go higher, you can go louder, and you can go softer. So make sure that you understand where your dynamic range is, as far as the loudest that you can go, and as far as the lowest that you can go, or softest that you can go. So be mindful of that. That's great advice, Kahai.
Yeah. I think John Mayer, like, he did a Berkeley talk, and he talks about, like, besides volume dynamic range, he talks about like when you're soloing or when you're doing stuff, there's like the energy that you put into your playing. If you start just ripping on your solo and you play all the notes, and like if you're improvising with people, and you start off with that as a solo, it's like people will be excited, but then if they turn back to you and they go like, oh, take one more run, it's like, where do I go from there, right? Like you saw everything. I gotta go softer, I guess, or something, so it's like that plays into it too, like feeling the energy and where you want the music to flow to.
You go Arabic scales. That's where you go.
You
got nothing else.
That is exactly what I was thinking about too.
In that video, there's a part where you kind of bring it up, and then you throw it to Calais, right? So like you're doing your solo for Breezin', and then you kind of like bring it up, and then it's Calais' turn, and Calais purposefully brings it way down so that he can build it up, So it's
smart.
Like it's just smart playing. So you can kind of gauge from that, like what he was already thinking in his mind. But yeah, for as far as dynamics and putting it into the context of a song, maybe even without your ukulele, if you listen to the song, maybe try moving your body, swaying, getting the feel of the song, and then from that you can translate your dynamics. So like when you move to the right, you play a little bit more, and you to the left you play a little bit less, and that'll kind of help you kind of, I don't know, bring it into context. because that's kind of what Aldrine was talking about with the wave, right? You kind of want to bring it up and then bring it down. And so like if you have a hard time conceptualizing when should I bring it up or when should I bring it back down, maybe bring it back to just like feeling out the music, maybe just swaying or nodding your head, and then that can give you some like cues, I guess, like, you know, physical cues as to where you should do those things, because that's the kind of thing where like if somebody is listening to you play, they're doing that. And so if your dynamics match what they feel in their body anyway, that you know, the better your music translates.
Yeah, and I mean it's 3/4 time, so it's just think of a waltz, really. Like if you can visualize a waltz and two people kind of doing the waltz, and you can see where your dynamic should change or should flow. If you kind of imagine your ukulele kind of doing that with or two ukuleles waltzing, even, you know, like you want to be able to portray that with your playing. You want to give the audience that feeling of swaying. I was watching this video of of the Beatles, because the Beatles like never really did music theory, but why were they like so good, you know? Like one of the things that that video was talking about is that you know, in some songs that were 3/4 time, they didn't know what 3/4 was. Like, didn't read music, you know, didn't read or write music. So for them, they just like, okay, well, Ringo, in this part, we're gonna do it's like a waltz, you know, it's like a waltz time. So it's kind of like that same thing. You don't even have to think of it as 3/4. Just think about it like as a waltz, and if you can kind of imagine that, then you'll get the feel, instead of like okay, 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2, which you can do too. But if you just really just like feel it out, like bum bum down one and then swing and then swing, it's like that's what Aaron was talking about. Like kind of move your body to those, you know, to those kind of movements in the song, and if you translate that to your ukulele, it should be in good shape.
Yeah. I think besides that, like, you know, besides focusing only on dynamics or practicing dynamics, like moving your body is like a great advice for everybody, because there's a video from Adam Neely where he said that earlier on in his career he thought it's like, oh, it's more professional if you're just standing there and you're standing still and you're not moving around and you're just like the background musician, right? But then he like looking into it, he's like, but I don't feel the rhythm the same if I'm not like bobbing my head or moving my body or doing something. And he said like scientifically they look at musicians who do that, and they do have like a better sense of the music, and it does help them learn music better, when because your sense of motion is like intrinsically locked to your perception of music too. So it does help, like even if you know you're playing along. I totally understand, like people are like, oh, I feel silly though, like bobbing in my own house or doing stuff, but it's like, no, but it you know, it's your connection to the music. So yeah, it's like if you can feel that, that's you're trying to express yourself every way you can. So why not do that, you know? Like, why try to tamper that feeling? It's like, just have fun with it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, every time I see like a musician on stage, or like especially like since we're talking about bars and restaurants and stuff, if I see a musician like not moving, it always makes me feel like I'm watching a recital, you know, like okay, back straight and just, you know, like perfect posture, you're supposed to do it like that. And that's what it reminds me of. I was like, I don't want to sit in a recital like where I feel like I can't make any noise, I can't go woo, or, you know, like enjoy myself really. It's just like golf clap at the end of the, you know, performance. Like I want to have a good time as an audience member, I want to have a good time. And so I'd rather watch someone like Feng Yi just like rock out,
really get into it.
Really get into it. Then, you know, then watch someone just like sit there on their piano like with their back straight and stuff. So I don't know, it's personal preference, I guess.
I think even piano teachers are starting to like kind of rescind that and realize that it's like kind of the, you know, the old school way of teaching, but it doesn't really translate into like the real world, because like they're being like, but why do we teach our kids to be so rigid, and then once they reach adulthood, it's like, oh, you should be moving with your music. You should look like a really dynamic player, getting really into it. So they're like, I guess we should just let them start off like that,
because we beat it out of them early on.
Do you guys think like Mozart and Bach and all those guys, like, who compose like for piano, do you think like they just like sat there and played their music with their back straight, or do you think that they rocked out?
I just read.
There's no right or wrong answer. Like, no one knows really.
Yeah, I think Bach did, because I just read something where he said, like, I think it was Bach. He said that even him, like, composing songs and like playing music, he felt like it was very stuck up-ish, like the people he was playing for, he felt like it was like, oh, there's this aristocratic air to it, and like all these people are like, it's like, ooh, I listen to this type of music, ooh, it's so. But for him, he was like almost joking on the inside, because he was like, I'm kind of making fun of the people who I'm making this music for, like without them realizing. He would write letters about this. So I think even those guys, like, people think like, oh, they were such serious musicians, but it was just, they were just expressing themselves at the time of the music that they knew about, Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've remember that time. This reminds me. Me and Aaron as musicians, we we get gigs from like all kinds of places and stuff, and one of the gigs that we're not too keen of taking are always weddings, like there's
there's you never know.
Because
expectation is
our show is very dynamic. It's very like, look at me and look at me solo, I'm gonna strum as fast as I can and as loud as I can and stuff, and it's like it takes away from like the bride and groom, but like. And sometimes we would take it. I mean, if they're like, oh, how about we give you this much money? It's like, well, for that, I guess I'll do whatever you want me to do. So, like we go ahead and do it. But then I just feel bad at the end. It's just like, man, I just made sure the audience looks at me, like, what about the bride and stuff? And the bride and groom comes, they're like, man, that was good. I was like, was it though? I felt super bad, And some of the songs that we play are like inappropriate for a wedding, and and that really just depends, I guess, on the audience. Like if your audience is just a bunch of people like wanting to see a recital, then maybe you should keep your back straight. Aristocratic.
I guess so. I don't know. I think it's good that they're revising it now, and they're looking at it and being like, no, it's not really supposed to be that serious, There are some things like with your posture when you're playing like piano or when you're playing ukulele too, that it is important, but it's like, it's not supposed to be like something that kills your joy of playing music. It's just like, oh, you just do this because like if not, you might get carpal tunnel or something, Yeah.
Do you have any other questions, Kahai?
No, I think that was pretty much it.
Okay, cool. Well, we have a live chat.
Well, I got a question in email.
Okay.
Earlier this week, it was from Charles. So Charles came to the retreat. Charles Jasper.
Oh yeah.
So so he he has a kanilea, and he was trying to restring it, but he noticed that when he was restringing the A, because kanilea uses bridge pins. To keep it in the bridge, right? Keep the string in the bridge, and he noticed that the pin was popping out when he was putting it up to tension. So
interesting. Okay.
I mean, I answered his question already.
Yeah. Well, usually, like when I change it, I mean that it sometimes happens, but it rarely does and stuff. So I would double knot it, and then when I put it in, there's a side to the to the bridge pins. Usually there's like the hollow side and like the solid side. So I use the solid side facing this way. So usually like in guitar you would have the hollow side facing this way, but I actually do it the opposite, where like the solid side is facing here. usually guitars need it, so that's kind of where the string like pops out of. There's like a little hole and stuff that pops out of. But for ukuleles, in the way that it's built, it has the slot for it already, so it doesn't really matter if you have the hollow side or not. So, and when you put it in, push it here and then tune it up there so that it doesn't kind of pop out. So if you maintain kind of the push and then tune, it should get used to make it being kind of put down, and once it gets used to the tension, it shouldn't pull on it for the most part. Is that what you said to him?
Well, I told him that most because it sometimes happens with my guitar too. So sometimes when that is happening, it's because the knot on your string is probably getting caught at the bottom of the pin. So like say this is the pin, and then your string goes to it, like the knot is at the bottom.
Yeah.
So like if I put a knot here, the knot is getting caught like on the pin, on the bottom of the pin, and it really should be on the side, and then the pin is just kind of holding it in place. So what I told him to do is to like take your string, I don't know if you can see that, so take your string and then kind of like curve it, make it so it has like a little bit of a curve to it, and then when you put it into the hole, you kind of like it kind of it goes into the hole in your bridge, and then it kind of just goes inward that way, and then your pin goes like this, and then that way the knot doesn't get caught on the bottom of the pin, and then pull it out.
Smart. That's smart. So, yeah, and I mean it should catch. Like when you make your knots and you put it in, because it has like the little the slits where it should be. You should just make sure that it catches already, so that it's that's what I do anyway. You can do like Aaron's way and stuff, but what I do is I catch it so that like when I put the when I put the bridge pin, it's already like right where the knot should be on the slit itself. When I put it on. But I mean, there's lots of ways you can prevent that. But most likely, what it's doing is from what Aaron is saying, it's catching at the bottom. So any way you can prevent that from happening should be good. Yeah, that's a good one.
So he was having trouble. I guess he had never restrung an ukulele before, so he didn't know, and we really need to redo our restringing video.
It's so old and ghetto.
Yeah,
and there's like so much, different like bridges and stuff that's kind of come out
and
lately,
headstocks too.
Yeah.
So
I've even changed the way that I do it and stuff. Like I've changed the way that I change strings, and it's kind of cool. I've made like weird knots and stuff because I've noticed that a lot of the strings that I use slip right here with the slotted headstock, like it slips and stuff. So what I do is like I put it into the hole going this way, and then I kind of like tie a knots like on the roller itself, like on the tuner, and then like and I pull it out, so it's inside. Plus, it's kind of like it has a knot on the roller, so it catches twice, and it's cool, and it doesn't slip that way, like, and I save a lot of time with like, oh my god, oh no, it's slipping again.
So originally when he sent the question, the way that he phrased it, I thought that that's what he was talking about. Like the tuning peg, it was kind of the string itself was slipping out of the tuning peg, because sometimes if you cut it too early and your strings don't have time to get stretch out, it'll slip, and then it'll totally come out of the tuning peg. And that's the reason why Aldrine just like loops it and keeps the excess on there.
So that if it stretches and whatever.
So if you look at his ukulele that he has holding in his hand right now,
it's all these stretches.
That's exactly what he's done. But then I did send him a couple different ways that you can kind of set up that tying so that it doesn't slip. If if he had already cut it and didn't have too much, there are ways that you can kind of prevent it from slipping. But
what I used to do, especially with the A and the G, since it was like skinnier strings, I'd like put it into the slot. And like pull it out and put it back into the slot again, so that it creates like a like
put it the opposite way and then back into the hole.
So I used to do that. Now I do it a little bit different, or I would do that and like the and the knot around the thing. So that creates basically a knot just around the like where the hole is, and the two, that because there's the two slits, like it creates like that knot around the two slits. But I create a knot on the slit and a knot around the roller itself. So like, and it works, like especially with the AG cross AQ strings that I have and stuff. They're pretty slippery on this side, and I do get a lot of people that are like, oh, I tried to put it on and it snapped and it broke because I guess like they were
it might have slipped out.
It might have slipped out, or like because it slipped out, they have to like pull it out again and try to redo it, and then it's like too short and then it snaps. So we really gotta do that again. Speaking of which, I just talked to Akila the other day, and I know I said this a long time ago and stuff, but like I have gotten like a new contract because we had to redo it because my old contract was just for the tenors and stuff. But now that they're doing soprano, concert, and baritone, like I signed a new one. It should be on its way. So all of the people who are asking me, I told you it wasn't my fault. Like so they're like, they're like, oh, we just need your approval and we need your signature. Just like, you could have told me this like a while back, but that's cool. No, not mad or anything. But I did it. I approved of it. It's all good. I asked for a clear, not clear, but unwound low G. And it was kind of funny because they're like, well, our only unwound low G right now are like the reds. Do you mind if it's red? I was like, I do mind if it's red. Please don't have it be red. So they're working on unwound low Gs for tenor as well. So it's set. It's there. It's signed. It's going. Nice. So all of you folks who've been wanting mic strings in different sizes, they should be available soon-ish.
that usually means like next year, or in 2 quarters or something.
I've been saying this whole time, I was like, see, it's not me, I told you. But so that's good news on this side. So anything else? Do you have questions from the audience, Kahai?
Josh asked a question. He said, any tips on practice techniques on finding notes high on the neck without looking?
For me, when I was starting out and I was kind of like figuring out my fretboard, I actually cut the fretboard in half. Like that's what I did, and it worked for me. I know that we have a video of like mastering your fretboard and stuff, and using the dots and kind of using acronyms for those dots and whatnot. That's good too, But I old school the way that I did it is I cut it off in the on the 5th fret. So on the 5th fret, anything below the 5th fret, because it's not that much, I would kind of just concentrate on memorizing that, and then then I would know. And then anything above the 5th fret, that's what I would memorize all the way up until 12. So 5 frets and then 7 frets here. But using your dots as a guide is a huge advantage. So for example, if I'm learning the ukulele from say the 5th fret on, I know on the 5th fret I have C, I have F, I have A, and I have D. Okay? And then on the 7th fret, I have D, I have G, I have B, and I have E. And then knowing on the 10th fret, I have F, then I have B flat, then I have D, then I have G. So if you focus on those dots first, and then like focus on the rest of the notes in relation to the dots. So for example, if I know that the dots on the 7th fret, like I mentioned, is going to be D, G, B, E. If I'm playing say A string 8th fret, I know that on the dot with the A string, that's my E note. So that means half a step from the E is an F. So I don't even have to be like, okay, it's A sharp, B, C, C sharp. I don't have to do all that. I just need to know here on the on the third dot is E. The fret after that's got to be F. But I give the advice of cutting it in half, because it's like, if you try to focus on the entire fretboard all one time, it's going to be pretty difficult. But if you cut it in two and then memorize one first and then the other, it should be a lot easier.
Yeah. I think coming from like a playing standpoint of like not, because I tell a lot of people, like, that's the thing, is like we might not know the names of notes. Like if you ask us what is the name of the note on the 8th fret for your G string or your E string or something, then we'll like look at our ukuleles and be like, that is and like do the calculation in our head to figure out the name, right? But if we were playing a song, like I can just run up the neck and I know like what notes are like safe to play, or what notes I can just start like soloing over and doing stuff. And Aldrine teaches that in Solo Secrets, so that's like really helpful, is learning the two modes. But then also like taking that into application, like what I'll do sometimes is the mode that I play in usually, for like a solo, like say you're playing Drop Baby Drop or something and you're playing the intro solo, like instead of playing it on that mode that you usually play it on, I'll play it on the other mode that the other island, or I'll play it farther up the neck, to like diversify the notes that I know. And they're the same notes, but I'm just like, I like that helps me like, oh, so these same notes are over here also on the neck, and also over here up on the neck. It's like that's how you just get familiar with it. I think is like you just play songs in different parts of the neck. So
yeah. I think it's less about knowing the names of the notes and more memorizing the patterns of safe notes. And then you can expand from there. But Solo Secrets Revealed is really good, because that really introduces that concept really well. And then another good kind of practice tool is if you know your scale. There was one that Imua showed, and it was just him kind of like playing around with the scale, like all the way from the top of the scale, top of his fretboard, moving down, and he was just staying on the scale notes, but he was using just the E and A string, and he was going dun 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 dun. And if you just keep doing that, you'll get that muscle memory, and you'll feel it. And then when you move to a different scale, it feels exactly the same, just in a different position. So check out Imua's, I forget what it was called, but we'll put a link to it in the show notes. But yeah, Imua did kind of like a really quick rundown of what he does, and that's like really practical, for just being able to feel what notes would be right in a certain scale. Or in a certain key.
I think
I guess an alien man.
I think Chris has some exercises too in his masterclass, right? Like Chris running through notes and stuff. So it is like just kind of And Cameron came back, or not Cameron, Josh came back and said, more of a question of building muscle memory to move my fingers quickly between lower notes and higher notes. I'm learning while my guitar gently sleeps, and the quick jumps are slowing me down because I have to find the note visually before I can strum. And I think like if that's the case, is like you can break down, just a lot of people will try to play through the whole song, just break down that transition first, like just do the go back and forth between those notes until you can do it without like looking, you close your eyes and you can just feel like where you are in the neck for that particular stuff.
Just just doing it over and over. There's really no substitution for just like hard work. I guess, right? Because if you do it over and over, you'll just ingrain it in your head that like, okay, well, it's here. Like if I have to go, like if we're playing While My Guitar Gently Weeps, that's like one of the ones that like will really get up there. Like how does someone know that you have to, or how does someone practice? You have to have your pinky finger on 14 and then pointer finger on 11. Like 11 and 14 seems like, pretty abnormal for anything really. C string 11, like you never really hit that for anything, So going from this, like how do you like practice something like that? So with this, it's because I just visualize it as I need the B note, and the B note is gonna be 1 fret below the C note on the A string. So if my 12th fret is the same thing as my open strings here, I know that the B note is the 14th fret, because if this is 12, that's 14. So I'm going from here, and I just kind of cut off the rest of my ukulele here on the 12th fret, and I know I'd have to hit that one. And for as far as the 11 goes, I know that the 12th fret is right there. 11 is just 1 fret below it. So it really using the dots and kind of visualizing it as if I'm kind of playing this note. Like that's kind of what I'm thinking of. And it makes sense.
Yeah. And he should just like practice that, like just repeat that part.
Over and over.
Yeah, just over and over. Just that part.
Drill it. Just drill it in your head.
Yeah. And until
there's no substitute for it, really. Just keep drilling.
And what might help too is like instead of trying to twist your ukulele to look at the dots or like looking down, look at a mirror for like practice in front of a mirror and look at the mirror and then close your eyes like and to see if you land on the note without like using your visual response. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Nice. Any more questions?
Ritesh asked a question. Let me find it.
Us kind of related to that, Jim just asked, do you have side markers on your ukulele?
I do.
neck?
I do.
Yeah. Or I don't know if he's asking if Josh does, but that's helpful if you do have that.
Yes.
So then you don't have to look at the front of your ukulele.
My custom ones and stuff, like the Aldrine models, do not have the dots in the front.
But they only have the side markers.
Yeah,
right?
They only have the side markers.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't really need the ones in front because when I'm holding my ukulele, it's here anyway. You know what I mean? Like I'm not doing this. So it's very important to have it in the side. I think it's more important to have it in the side than to have it in the front.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Ritesh's question was, classical guitar players will always use a support or strap, and their fretting hand never supports the neck. Hawaiian players have a huge range of playing styles. Do you guys have opinions?
Yeah, really, it's just a difference in style. I've seen people hold the ukulele, Hawaiian musicians hold it in just the weirdest ways, and I'm like, well, if it works for them, then that's fine. Who am I to tell them that they're doing it wrong? Like the weirdest one, I've seen somebody put it like up here, and like in their hand is like over here somewhere, and that's like how they do their strum, and I'm just like, okay, if that floats your boat, like that's cool. Like I guess like that works. Really, it's just if you can get the note clean, if you're not straining yourself and stuff, it's fine. You can play behind your neck if you want to, but for the most part, the reason why we teach it a certain way is because some of the techniques that that come afterwards flow into how we explain holding your ukulele to begin with. So it's like in the front, like how Aaron was saying, and in front of you and whatever, and not so much against your body like this, and you're holding it, putting it on your lap and whatnot. Because when you do the strumming and then you do chunks and rolls and stuff, it just flows. If you're doing it this way and trying to do a chunk and a roll, doing it from here, it doesn't really work, So you can do chunks and rolls from that angle, but you would have to like change it up. But for us, in order to kind of explain these techniques and have a certain flow to it, that's how we explain it on ukulele on the ground. But yeah, I've seen tons of different ways that people have held the ukulele and play it, and I've seen them play it well too. I'm just like, that's cool, like that's totally fine.
Yeah. I think that style of holding the ukulele like that, right, is like really reminiscent of like older players who like play a lot of like that Hawaiian like triplets drums or do that kind of stuff. Like
I don't know how up here like works, you know. I just don't.
Yeah.
And not for me, I guess, you know. Different strokes.
But they figure out how it works, and I think it comes from like that. Not that like here in Hawaii, we didn't really have like a formal way of like learning music, you know. There's like hula and stuff like that, but there, you know, if you ask somebody how to learn music here, it's not like you go, or before it wasn't like you would go to some place and they'd be like, okay, well, we're gonna sit you down and we're gonna teach you all these things. It's like you just learn from somebody who already knew or something, and you might learn bits and pieces of what they know. But it's like usually they won't be like, okay, here's my full course with everything laid out, and here's here's the booklet that we're gonna use and everything. It's just like, I have an hour on Friday, I'll teach you one song or whatever, you know, if you get that. So it's like a lot of that is just like we learn bits and pieces of it, and then it's just like figure it out the rest ourselves, and that's how you get all these different like divergences, right, of all these different ways of playing.
When you play whatever you're comfortable. I mean, there's back then, it's not like there was like an ukulele underground or a you know, or jumping gyms or whatever that kind of showed you how, you know, how you should be holding your ukulele or whatever. They're just like, do I play it like this? Yeah, I guess I play it like this now, you know, like, and it worked. If it works for them, then it works for them, you know. And I'm sure guitar has its own thing too. Like when punk music first came out, like, I mean, it's kind of absurd to see like guitars all the way down and like in their crotches and stuff, like to be playing it that way. It's like, why would you do that when your like wrist is like, you know, overextended and stuff, you know? Like, it's kind of in weird ways. So it's same thing. It's not just necessarily Hawaiian music, but in all kinds of different music, there's weird ways that people, you know, hold it.
It's just in music in general, right? Like it evolves over time. Because like if you look at like old classical paintings and or romantic paintings of like musicians, they have like old paintings where like there's musicians holding cellos like on their shoulder, or they're holding guitars like they would hold a violin, you know, like, or early versions of what would eventually become guitars. And people look at that and they're like, oh, that's silly. Like the painter must have not known, like it must have been like their interpretation of what they're holding, right? Like they just thought that's how you hold the instrument. But it's like, no, these painters were painting how they saw people play, and it's just that there was no structured way, and there wasn't one person saying like, hey everybody, hold your things like this is how you play. It's like that came way later. So yeah,
you know what's a good idea? Holding it like this.
Yeah. Oh, I guess we should hold it on our laps. And even like early guitars, like if you look at the shapes, they're all different shapes. And then it was only one person who like figured out like, oh, this kind of gourd shape works really well. Like let's kind of start like standardizing that, you know? So yeah, it's what do you think of as like maybe like structured, or is like the classical style, or like, oh, this is the way that everybody does it. It's like, that's probably only the last like 100, 200 years that everybody has been playing it like that. But before that, you know, it's like it probably was a Wild West where like nobody had a straight idea and everybody just played whatever they could figure out worked. So yeah, I think don't get stuck on that. Don't get stuck on like thinking like, oh, I gotta play like that classical style, or I gotta play like that guy, you know? Yeah.
I mean, we saw Corey whipping out some classical music, you know, the other week, and he holds it just like normal. He doesn't hold it right here between his legs and, you know, doing that, like kind of classic guitar, you know, like Paco de Lucia or whatever. I don't know, I think Paco holds it regular, but I just see like classical musicians with like between their legs and stuff. That's crazy.
Yeah, but a lot of them too, like
certain schools.
A lot of them too, like do the bent wrist thing too. And now like that's becoming the thing, right? Where they're like saying like, no, don't do that because that is what leads to carpal tunnel. That's like the main cause of carpal tunnel, but that's the way it was taught before. So, yep.
I think it goes back to what we were talking about earlier with like recital kind of, like performances. Like for some people, like that look was just like good posture, good whatever, like it looked good, even though like it was bad for your wrists or whatever, bad for whatever joints it is bad for, but they think it looks nice, so they just like, oh well, you're supposed to hold like this because that's nice. It looks good.
Yeah, it's presentable.
Yeah,
but it's more practicality now. It's like you want to hold it down here, like when you're playing punk music, because you're only playing really the top 3 strings or 4 strings.
Yeah.
So, but I don't know. I mean, come on, guys. You make like you've never held your guitar like that before. Everyone has held their guitar or ukuleles, down there. Like I remember many days with my electric guitar just like down here, just rocking out to Blink 182 or Green Day.
I put strap locks on my guitar because of like that early, like when I was playing in high school, my electric guitar, and I've had like times where I'm playing in the high school, like, or I don't know what it was called, like kind of pop band or whatever, it's a part of the whole band program. But I was playing guitar, and then my strap, because I'm playing it so low, my strap came off. So I had to hold my guitar, but we're still playing. I had to hold my electric and try and play at the same time until like the next song, the song finishes and I can put the strap back on. So like after getting out of high school, I was like, oh, that was really dumb of me. Like if I can still play like that, but I'm going to put a strap lock on my guitar. At least that way it won't come off,
make sure. Never again.
Yeah.
Like it goes back to that, like that story that I told like Craig and Sarah. It's like, maybe you shouldn't put your the strap, like the strap peg. It's supposed to be down here and not up here. They're like, they put their strap peg up here instead, but you shouldn't put it there because when you have your strap on, that's gonna pull, and it's gonna go. And lo and behold, they're performing in front of thousands of people at the Breakfast Nam show. And then on video, like on big, because like there's like cameras, and behind them is like the big screens that everybody can see them perform and stuff. Like all of a sudden, I think it was Sarah, like Sarah's ukulele just like comes off the strap just to like hold it, just like how Kahai did, And then she was telling me, like, I immediately thought of Aldrine saying, like, no, you should put it down there.
Should probably not put it.
Yeah.
See? And now it's kind of cool because if you look at their ukulele, there's like a white dot here, like where the hole used to be. Like, and Joe just like patched it up with like a white dot. Let's see, it's a scarlet letter, Kahai. Just like, it's a scarlet dot. Be like, hey, Aldrine told you so.
We should.
If I only listened to Aldrine.
If we get them on a podcast, right, we have to like subtly like, so where's the best position to put your strap peg? Can you talk?
The roast of Craig and Sarah. We have so much.
There's only we can only get them on that, so we gotta make the most out of it. Yeah.
I know, they're so good now. Like I remember one of the things that Craig would say is because there was this one time we hung out with Jake, like we were in Eugene and Jake was playing a show in Eugene, and I think after his show, like he wanted to go like shoot some pool or whatever. Jake is like a great pool player, a billiard player, and I'm okay. And then like we're winning, and then Jake's like, all right, man, Aldrine just gotta like sink this. And I sunk the 8-ball with the
you scratched
basically scratched on the 8-ball.
Yeah.
So and every time, like back then, whenever I'd see Craig's like, so I play a lot of pool lately. I was like, no. Scratch a lot of. But yeah, so it's good times. Craig and Sarah have been our good friends for a long time. We know a little too much.
Yeah, it's a two-way street.
It is. Oh, Craig never let me let that loss on Street Fighter down. I was like, oh, I lost one time, and it's like I can't. It's burning inside of me. I need a rematch.
Yeah,
it sounds good. I love those guys. All right, Kahai, any other last minute business before we go?
Yeah, in the chat, people are talking about playing without a strap, and how do you learn to play without a strap if you've been playing this whole time with the strap? You know, like how do you get used to that?
I would suggest like playing sitting down without a strap. So if you've always played with a strap and stuff, and I've seen a lot of my private students do this, is they have a strap on and stuff, and a lot of them are like up here, and their hands are kind of below this. So which is fine if you're kind of strumming that way, but for the most part, if it's down here on your lap, you should have your forearm up here instead, because that's kind of keeping it you're keeping it close here, you're putting it back, and it's getting that like kind of seesaw thing, so but if it's down here, you can, but a lot of that weight kind of goes on the upper side, so you want to keep it nice and steady. It's here. So when you have your ukulele without a strap sitting down, and then just basically make sure that you can hold it by just lifting up here and not let it sit on your lap. So just kind of get used to that. If you can get used to that, not putting it on your lap, you can hold it up here, then you're ready for the big time, baby. You can kind of stand up and do it, but at least have a crutch like this where I'm kind of holding it without resting it on my lap. But I could, so if it falls, it's still there, like right on my lap. I have insurance. But if I do this, and I can get used to it, I can play it without it, then that means you can stand up and play without a strap. So kind of get that. So once again, forearm up here, not so much down here, like this. It's a little bit up here. So it is kind of back, but it's up here, and that's getting me to kind of pinch it. Pinch my elbow back so that it's against my body. And I'm holding it on the left side. Then I can kind of stand here, as you can see that I'm not pulling it down. But the trick really is how much you support it on the left side, and making sure that you have the right, the right contact with your knuckle or your thumb and stuff. And that's really what's important. And even like this right here, like behind your big knuckles, that's usually like a good place to kind of hold it if you're doing like chord changes and stuff, like quick chord changes. Be mindful of your left hand and where you're making contact.
Yep. Yeah. And then like people in the chat are saying it too, but like Aaron has his video on how to hold the ukulele, and then like Ukulele 100 goes over holding the ukulele too. So if you have problems with that, review those two things, and you should get a pretty good idea for how to do it. Yep.
Yeah. And then I always say just walk around your house with your ukulele. That's a good one. If you kind of have a beater ukulele, like everybody should have a beater. If you have a really expensive ukulele, you should still have a beater that you can just walk around. Like just bring it. Like if you're in the kitchen, just play it to the kitchen and then throw it on the counter. And then when you leave the kitchen, grab it and then try to hold it and walk to the next room. And if you do that like for a day, it'll be, pretty quickly you'll figure out what is comfortable, what makes it slip, and how to not make it slip. And you should probably be good after, like you do that for a week and you'll know how to hold it for life.
I think you can get so good at playing ukulele if you do that, and then if you watch TV, just like have your ukulele with you when you're watching TV. And how you can get super good at like note recognition and like reproduction and stuff is like try to play with like along with all the different commercials, all the different jingles, all like whatever theme music is playing for, or background music is playing for the TV show. And you'll like that's kind of like what I did. And then or like playing along with radio and stuff. It's like you make it a part of your like everyday life. Don't make it like, oh, ukulele time is from 9 to 10 and my life is from 11 to 12 or whatever. It's like if you can make it where it's just like integral to like everything you do, I think that's how you become like a natural musician, or you become better at music. Is you just like take it everywhere with you, and then always try to be playing it whenever you can. Make it so it's like something that you can't put down. I
give that advice for people who who are wondering like how how do I get better at strumming patterns? Like, it's always that. Like, how do I get better at strumming patterns? It's like, just sit down, watch some TV, or like put on your favorite album or whatever it is. Put your left hand over the strings and just like, you know, make like your and just drum along with whatever that song is. So you're not thinking about up, down, down, up, chunk up, left, right pattern. You're just like following along, you know, like, and whatever that is that you're doing there is just you trying to create a strumming pattern. So there's no more patterns. You just kind of like follow along with the groove. Find the groove by taking your left hand over, you know, over your strings, like I said, and just kind of using your right hand to groove along.
I think I just watched Karate Kid again, or like I was watching Karate Kid, and
again for the what time?
Which one?
After 1,000.
Which Karate Kid?
The original, right? After 1,000 times, do you count still? Like, it doesn't really matter, right? But
hey, you only watch Karate Kid for the 1,237 time once.
Oh, okay, yeah. And then I gotta watch him go to Okinawa too. But Okinawa. But I think that's what like a lot of people get frustrated because like we tell them stuff like this, and they're like, you know, they're doing the whole wax on, wax off thing. Like they're actively practicing that, but they don't see the end result of like, oh, this will get you to playing songs and stuff. Like, but you have to do these things where it's like it might not seem important, and you're just doing this with your everyday life. You're doing everyday things of building a fence or like waxing the floor or whatever, you know, painting the fence too. You're doing all these things. And then eventually it leads up to karate, or in this case, like strumming, without needing to be told what to do, or just playing along to songs. Yeah.
I don't remember that part in Karate Kid. When did Shay Dre, paint the fence?
Come on.
Shay Dre's never. I mean, I think that's what Jackie Chan told Shay Dre to do, right?
No, come on.
There's only one Karate Kid.
I'm gonna cut this out so we just end earlier the podcast. Let's just end it on a good note. Let's end it on good Karate Kid. Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, it is past our time. Thank you so much for everyone who's tuning in. Mahalo to all of you folks who are listening to the podcast or watching the replay. Thank you so much. Check out ukuleleunderground.com if you want to learn how to play the ukulele. Check out those videos like we were saying. There's going to be show notes so you guys can check out Hagimua's and Chris Salvador, all the stuff that we talked about. Make sure to check out the show notes. We'll see you folks later. Have a great one. See you tomorrow for the Aloha Friday Live Jam, and also stick around for the one-on-one coaching. Aloha.